Hi, I'm Charlotte and this is Dive Mama Tries to Read. So I got my Christmas lights up. Me and Idris spent, I think, about half an hour doing them a few weeks ago, and that was quite literally the last time that I was in the shed. So it looks really, well, it looks really cute on this side. That side has got a lot of stuff in it because we're trying to make room in our house for like our Christmas tree and stuff like that. And also, much as I don't want to like ruin the illusion of the cuteness of the shed, but it really starting to smell of damp in here now because I haven't been in here for 3 weeks. Like, I film in here and then I don't get to come back in. It's just, I was coming in loads when we first put the shed, well, maybe not the first sort of month we had the shed together, but then I was like, no, I'm going to start spending evenings out there. I'm going to start going out there to read, to do writing and whatnot. But it's just been ridiculous. I don't know whether it's Idris's age or whatever, but in some ways it's a lot easier to crack on with other things. You know, he can sort of entertain himself when you're in the house, but in other ways he's just so demanding that me and Stephen just feel like we never have any time. So I'm not going to like leave Stephen in the house and come out here when we haven't seen each other all day properly. So yeah, it is a bit sad that I'm only out here to do these videos, but at least I get that. And I do have some other Christmas lights, but I didn't bring them to put them up. My cacti are looking a bit sad, so I've moved the camera away. It's just not the time of year for cacti, is it really? Yes, so it's been raining. It's still raining a lot. I don't know if you can hear it pitter-pattering on the shed. Yesterday we made the ill-advised decision to go for a walk along a sort of beauty spot in Swansea, which is called Clyne, and it's got a river running through, and this is a classic Swansea. It's a river running through, and then there is an old rubbish tip that makes up the hill besides. So you've got decades of human waste making up this huge hill, which is then covered in like mostly bramble, but they've planted trees and whatnot as well. And presumably everything washes off of that into the river, presumably. I mean, I don't know, but the river was full, and we hadn't been down there for like, I don't know, years, because we used to take the dogs there all the time, but one of our dogs, Eddie, gets car sick, so we can't really take him there since we moved. But yeah, we went down there. We hadn't been on the path for years. Turns out nobody looks after that path. A tree can fall down and that just adds to the walk. So we took a 3-year-old, almost 4, on this, I think it's about 2 miles of river, which was just, I would say most sensible people would have turned back, but we got to the point where we'd gone too far to turn back. And we'd also told Idris that there was a trippity bridge that we were aiming for, because after the bridge you then climb the old rubbish mound and then you walk back along the top. So we kept saying to him, come on, there's a trippity bridge. And once you've said that to a 3-year-old, if you try and turn back on any parent will know, if you try and turn back on a walk with a child, it is like stopping a film halfway through and making that person watch it from the start. It's like nervous breakdown territory. They collapse into this heap and they won't go back. So whilst I had several times thought we should turn back on that last massive stretch of bog that we all couldn't get through, it got to the point where we kind of had to go on, even when we unfortunately began to see parts of the trippity bridge floating down the river, which is never a good sign. And we kind of hoped it wasn't the bridge, but it became more and more apparent that it was the bridge. So yeah, it was a glorious walk. We did get over the river. I'm not going to tell you any more detail about how it happened, because you'll phone like social services for my poor child. But actually he was just gung-ho, he just went for it. So yeah, the weather is even worse today. I don't think we're going to be going out, and I thought I would use this tiny amount of time between Idris being in school and pickup, which is literally 2 hours, he's only in school for that long, to do a video about what I've been reading. I know it's been non-fiction November. I have done one non-fiction book. I haven't done, Nov, this counts. I read Fox 8, so accidentally did part of Nov by George Saunders. And I know it's been knocking around for a while, and It may be that you know that I do like foxes, and Idris's middle name is Fox, so I kind of collect fox things. And people give me fox things, which is really, really nice. Like all of like Christmas presents and stuff, I usually have like foxed socks or something like that, which is cool. So this is awesome. I saw this on Sian's channel, which was Shani Reads. It is now PaSTORYTime, and it's so good. So I won't read much from it because her video is much better, but what I didn't realise about this is all written in kind of fox talk. So it's all spelt kind of cutely wrong, and it's written in a kind of fashion where someone doesn't know how to speak English fluently but is doing a really good job. And it's very entertaining, and it's got, I don't know if you can see this, I don't know if my camera will focus. It's got these gorgeous line illustrations all the way through. I mean, it's dead easy to read. You'd read it in an hour. But it's very, very funny and very, very poignant, and it has quite a horrible bit. And it is kind of on that environmentalists kind of way. I loved it. I'll definitely read it again, and my dad's already read it as well since I've gone through it. Then I've read another chunky book. I've read so many chunky books this year. I feel like I feel a bit sad about my reflection of how many books I've read, because so many of them have been enormous. Do you know what I mean? I'm feeling almost a little bit like I should do a page count of how many pages I've read this year. If I was that tempted, I'm not going to say if I was that sad, because there'll be somebody out there who's doing that. I am tempted to do it, but I won't do it because I just don't have the time. But I've read this chunky one, The Untold Lives of the Women Killed by Jack the Ripper by Hallie Rubenhold. And I kind of liken this kind of historical writing to, earlier on this year I read a book called The Mother, trying to remember who wrote it, Sarah Knott. And this is written in a similar style where there's a lot of imagination going on, artistic license, but in a way that I really enjoyed. It's really obvious that she is guessing at certain things, or maybe not guessing, but embellishing. So she's obviously looked at the weather on a certain day or a certain month where she's got a historical document saying where one of these women were. And and she has then said, you know, that morning Polly woke up, it was so cold that morning, when she stepped out the door the ice cracked underfoot, she needed a drink to warm her, that kind of thing. You know, we can't know what was going through Polly's mind, but she does a really good job at guessing, and it creates this atmosphere. And the women in here are just, it's fascinating. It's put a whole new spin on Victober. I don't ever want to have been alive in the Victorian age. I'm just going to put it out there. And I didn't think I did anyway, but I definitely don't now. I mean, the kind of thin line between survival and destitution was just ridiculous. Anything could, especially if you were a woman. You know, you could be a shop owner, which was quite, you know, kind of middle class occupation. You could be a shop owner, you could be thriving, and your husband could die, and you'd be left with nothing because you couldn't continue with that business. You know, this compulsion to have more and more children was just out of this world. You know, these people are living in poverty like I can't even imagine, and they're just knocking out babies like you won't believe. So, and also that obviously the thing that's been highlighted in this is that the women's lives that we think we know, we often think of these 5 prostitutes that were killed by Jack the Ripper. There's no real evidence to suggest that most of them were prostitutes. In fact, I think only one in the end in this comes out as having been known to be soliciting, but on the night of their death they weren't. So it just puts a whole new spin on it. It shows how the kind of enigma of Jack the Ripper has overshadowed the lives of these women. You know, if you type in these women's names on Google, because I wanted to see what they looked like, you just get pictures of their bodies. It's awful. And there are a few pictures of them alive, but mostly it's just these awful sort of in situ images that were taken at the time. Anyway, I can't express how awesome it was, and it stayed with me, and I was constantly giving out bits of information to anybody who was listening about what it was like in the Victorian age and all these things that happened in London. It makes me really, really interested about London, actually. And, you know, I'm lucky enough to live close enough to London to go, although I don't that often, but I'd like to go there. And I don't want to go to the Jack the Ripper sites necessarily, but I kind of want to go to Whitechapel and look at Trafalgar Square and, you know, sort of reimagine it as it was. Anyway, on. Then I had a bit of light reading. I read Solitaire by Alice Oseman, which is, I don't know if you saw my reviews of the Heartbreaker graphic novels. Alice Oseman is the writer and illustrator of those. And she has been writing since she was 18. She got her first publishing contract when she was 18. And this is the book that she published first. So I didn't realise really that she was an author before she was an illustrator. Presumably she's done these bits as well because they look very Alice Oseman-y. And I will say as a kind of sort of just a little warning at the start, if you were not a dramatic person as a teenager, if you frowned upon the sort of theatrics of teenage life, even when you were one, and maybe even if you were then but you've just written it off now, this is not the book for you. But if you, like me, found drama around every corner, then this is a painful yet brilliant reminder of what it is like to be a teenager. I love this book. I love the main character. It deals really well with the issue of depression. Very, very well. There's no spoon feeding. It's just intelligently done, crediting the teenage audience with a little bit of, I don't know, well, a little bit of intelligence, just a little bit of honesty and feeling. You know, there's no solutions offered. It's quite a dramatic storyline, but in a setting of a school. And do you know what? If I could have written a book when I was 18, good God, this would have been it. It's infuriatingly brilliant. I really, really loved it. The characters are great. They're not what you expect. They don't do what you expect. But it is very relentlessly bleak in the depressive element, and it is very dramatic. And I just say, that to me, at some points it sort of grated on me, but in a kind of, oh my God, yes, it was like that kind of way. As that age, I would have loved to have read this book. I feel like this would have been I mean, they say the catcher in the rye for the digital age. Absolutely. If I'd read this when I was 16, I would have just been madly in love. And I am in love with it now. She can do no wrong for me, really. It's very inclusive. It's got the characters of Charlie and Nick, who are the main characters in the Heartstopper series, and they're background characters in this, but they're awesome. They're just a lovely young gay couple who are just really supporting each other, and those are the characters that Alice Oseman chose to bring out for the Heartstopper series. Really enjoyed. A book I forgot to review last time, to my eternal shame, was Roberto Pastore of PaSTORYtime's Hey Bert, which is his poetry collection. If you follow Shan, you will have seen her talking about this, and I'm here to say that I got this. So I talked about it in a book haul, I think, but I've got a rule where I don't review people I know. And you'd think, well, you can't know that many people, but you'd be surprised in Wales, especially when you're involved in like literary work, how many people you end up meeting who you do kind of know, and then you feel this pressure. Not that my channel is, you know, big enough to like produce mass sales, but you know, I talk about books, so you feel like you should talk about a book. So I have a rule where I just don't talk about anybody's that I know, but I'm going to break it because it's so good. So that is going to put a little bit of pressure on me with all the, you know, other ones that may come along in the future. But this one by Bert is awesome. It's an experience. I think you've got to read the whole lot in one go. I was immersed in it for a couple of hours and then thought about it for weeks afterwards. I still think about it now. And it's just a story about living and, I don't know, finding beauty in the small things in life and just working out what it is that makes you happy. So Bert himself has changed his life quite a lot in the last few years, and it says on the back here that he works as a school crossing guard, so a lollipop person, and he does other things as well, but he's also a poet, and he's found joy in this sort of more I don't want to say simple way of living, because it's not a simple way of living, but he expresses that joy in this really well. He loves spending time with Shan, and Shan's mentioned in there in several poems, which I found it really lovely. I found it so romantic and beautiful. I just really enjoyed it. And he also talks about really hard times as well. He's had hard times and he works through them in the poetry, and takes you with him on this personal journey. And yeah, I just loved it. So I think also it's a poetry book for people who don't really like poetry, because it's not, there's no pretension in there, which you can sometimes find even in the best of poetry. There's no, a lot of it reads like sort of, if you didn't have the line breaks, it would read like little prose stories. So I think this would definitely suit a lot of people. And it's also a really cool cover, really bright yellow back as well. So I'm sorry it's taken me a month to review that. That was out of this world. Now, I'm still working on this Daily Rituals, Women at Work by Mason Currey. I'm about almost a third of the way through, and I don't know why I came to a little bit of a halt. I think it was because I got ill, and I don't know, that they're really good for dipping into, but when I was in bed, I kind of wanted something a little bit more narrative than just these little dipping in stories. But this is, oh, there's a squirrel right outside the shed window. If I would turn the camera, but I don't think he'll stay. No, he's going. This squirrel, right, is, I'm all excited, but he's actually destroying our bird feeders. He's pulled off the little stands that that the birds have to sit on, and I didn't notice until I poured the bird feed, and all the bird feed just went outside. And he is eating, him and his little friend, because he bought a friend yesterday which we'd never seen before, they're eating a whole tube of peanuts in an hour. So, well, they're not eating them, they're stuffing them in their cheeks presumably, and then putting them in what can only be described as an entire trunk full of peanuts, because we're almost through a whole bag. So somewhere in the woods is a whole tree trunk of peanuts. So we might have to get an anti-squirrel device. I feel really bad because I don't shoo off crows or magpies or anything. They're all welcome, but we are going to be broke if he keeps eating that much. Okay, sorry, squirrel interjection over. So yeah, I've got to finish it because I don't like leaving books half finished at the end of the year. I'm going to stop there. I've got some Christmas books. Oh, my leg's gone dead. It's really gone dead. I've got some Christmas books that I've had arrive. I'm not going to get them from the library this year and be sensible, because last year loads of them were already booked. So I have bought them. And I will do a video, but one of them has yet to come. So I won't be doing it today, I don't think. But yeah, I hope you're all having a good nov or non-fiction November, and that you've been better behaved than me and actually stuck to the TBRs. I didn't have a TBR, but I did hope to read more non-fiction than just one. So we've got a few days left. Have we got a few days left? I might be able to finish this in a few days actually. And there's another one that I'm reading at the minute. What is that? That's non-fiction. I didn't bring it in the shed, and there was no way I was going to go back in the house to get it. But if I finish that, that will count too. Let me know what you're reading. Let me know if you are going to do a special Christmas list of books, and if so, what you're going to get, because there's always time for me to order a couple more. And I hope you're staying dry, or at least safe and warm in your house in this weather. Okay, see you later. Bye.